Will you just tie the bow? Late for the market. Dad's gonna kill me.
I don't know how to tie a bow.
So why did you tell me you did?
'Cause I'm self-confident.
Are you sure you're okay?
Mom, I'm okay.
Thank God, that's all that matters.
I'm glad you feel that way. I just got kicked out of school.
We're moving in lock, stock, and barrel. We're gonna be in the pool. We're gonna be in a clubhouse. We're gonna be all over that shuffleboard court. And I dare you to keep me out!
The biggest drama on your favorite sitcom often happened behind the scenes. When contract disputes or backstage turmoil hit, beloved characters would return with a completely new face, leaving us all bewildered. Today, we're revealing the shocking stories behind the most famous sitcom characters who were played by different actors. Let's begin with a minor character on a legendary 90s sitcom whose actor swap was so subtle most people never even noticed. 1. Carol Willick on Friends.
All you need is a woman who likes men and you'll be set. Not her.
For 10 seasons, Jane Sibbett was instantly recognizable as Carol Willick, Ross Geller's ex-wife and the mother of his son, Ben. Her calm, warm presence was the perfect counterbalance to Ross's frantic energy, and her loving relationship with her partner, Susan, was a groundbreaking and positive portrayal for its time. She was an integral part of Ross's story arc and a beloved recurring character. But here's the thing. She wasn't the first Carol. In the character's very first appearance, in the second episode of the series, she was played by a different actress entirely, Anita Barone. Barone appeared in that one episode, establishing the premise of Ross's divorce, and then promptly vanished. From the outside, it seemed simple, until you dig deeper. The story behind the swap is pure Hollywood logistics. Barone had originally auditioned for one of the main 6 roles and took the recurring part of Carol as a consolation. But after filming her first episode, she decided she was looking for a more permanent, full-time acting gig and quit the show, leaving the role vacant. The producers then recast the part with Jane Sibbett, who made the character her own for the next decade. The original episode featuring Barone is still out there in syndication and on streaming, a strange little piece of TV history that makes you do a double take every time you see it. The original Carol was a ghost of sitcoms past, but our next character was a famous TV mom who was recast not once, but twice, creating a revolving door of matriarchs. 2. Miss Ellie Ewing on Dallas.
And I don't apologize for what my son did. It's a family matter. We may be wrong and we may be right, but we're Ewings. We stick together. And that's what makes us unbeatable.
In the world of primetime soap operas, the matriarch is the unshakable foundation of the family. On the global mega hit Dallas, that foundation was Miss Ellie Ewing, the kind, compassionate, and fiercely protective mother of the Ewing brothers. For years, the role was defined by actress Barbara Bel Geddes, who won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her performance. She was the moral center of the show, the one character who could put a stop to the backstabbing schemes of her villainous son, JR. But in the mid-'80s, Bel Geddes had to undergo major heart surgery, forcing her to leave the show. The producers were faced with a huge problem. How do you replace an icon? Their solution was to bring in another Hollywood legend, Donna Reed, to take over the role. At first, it looked harmless, but the change was a disaster. Reed's portrayal of Miss Ellie was more glamorous and less earthy than Bel Geddes's, and fans simply didn't accept her in the role. The chemistry was off, and the character felt like an imposter. You won't believe what came next. After just one season, the producers, facing fan backlash and a recovering Barbara Bel Geddes who wanted her job back, fired Donna Reed and reinstated the original Miss Ellie. Reed sued the production company, and the whole affair became a messy, public scandal. The Miss Ellie swap was a public scandal, but our next character was recast in an animated classic, and most viewers were none the wiser. 3. Meg Griffin on Family Guy. For over 2 decades, Mila Kunis has been the voice of Meg Griffin, the perpetually bullied and unfortunate daughter of the Griffin family on Family Guy. Her distinctive, slightly nasal voice has become synonymous with the character. But for the show's first season, Meg was voiced by a completely different actress, Lacey Chabert, who at the time was famous for her role on the family drama Party of Five. If you go back and watch the early episodes, the difference is jarring. Chabert's Meg sounds younger, sweeter, and far less world-weary than the character she would become. Her voice was that of a more traditional sitcom teenager, which clashed with the increasingly edgy and cynical tone of the show. So what happened? The story behind the swap is less about drama and more about a simple contract issue. Chabert was still in school when she was working on the show, and her contract was only for the first season. When it came time to renew, a deal couldn't be reached, and she decided to leave the show to focus on her schoolwork and her role on Party of Five. The wild part is, the recasting was done so quietly that for years, many fans had no idea there was ever another Meg. Seth MacFarlane has stated there was no animosity, and Mila Kunis was brought in for the second season, where she developed the more neurotic and comically pathetic voice that has defined the character ever since. Meg Griffin's voice changed completely, but our next character on a legendary sitcom was recast after the pilot episode, and the new actor changed television history forever. 4. Frank Costanza on Seinfeld.
We're moving in lock, stock, and barrel. We're going to be in a pool. We're going to be in a clubhouse. We're going to be all over that shuffleboard court. And I dare you to keep me out!
Serenity Now. Jerry Stiller's performance as Frank Costanza, George's apoplectic, short-fused, and utterly bizarre father on Seinfeld, is one of the most iconic in sitcom history. His explosive rage, his strange inventions like the Bro or Monsieur, and his constant screaming matches with his wife, Estelle, created a character for the ages. He was a force of nature, a comedic hurricane who stole every scene he was in. But here's the thing, he wasn't the first Frank Costanza. In the character's first appearance, in the Season 4 episode The Handicap Spot, he was played by a different veteran character actor, John Randolph. Randolph's portrayal was much quieter and more subdued. He played Frank as a weary, defeated man, a far cry from the volcanic rage monster Stiller would later create. After that one episode, co-creator Larry David decided the character wasn't working and made the fateful decision to recast. He brought in Jerry Stiller and told him to play the part much bigger and angrier. And then everything flips upside down. Stiller's interpretation completely transformed the character and the dynamic of George's family. The show even went back and reshot Randolph's scenes with Stiller for syndication, effectively erasing the original Frank from existence for many viewers. It was a casting change that turned a minor character into a comedy legend. The first Frank Costanza was erased from history, but our next character was recast in a bizarre variety show, creating the infamous Fake Jan incident. 5. Jan Brady on the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Tell me, Miss Brady, how does it feel to be a celebrity?
No different, darling. I'm so used to it. I've been one for almost an hour.
In the mid-70s, variety shows were all the rage. So some network executive had a brilliant idea. Why not take the beloved cast of the recently canceled sitcom The Brady Bunch and give them their own variety hour? What could possibly go wrong? The answer was The Brady Bunch Hour, one of the most bizarre and universally panned television shows of all time. The show featured the cast performing cheesy song and dance numbers and painfully unfunny skits. The plan was to bring back the entire original cast to cash in on the nostalgia. There was just one problem. Eve Plum, the original Jan Brady, wanted nothing to do with it. She wisely recognized the show for the creative train wreck it was and refused to participate. So what did the producers do? They simply hired another actress, Gary Reichel, to play Jan. This fake Jan was dropped into the family with zero explanation, and the show proceeded as if nothing had changed. Here's where it all takes a sharp turn. The presence of a new actress playing such an iconic role was incredibly jarring for audiences. Reichel did her best, but she was stuck in an impossible situation, a replacement in a show that was already a disaster. The show was canceled after just 9 excruciating episodes, but the legend of the fake Jan has lived on for decades, a perfect example of a desperate recasting that only made a bad show even weirder. The fake Jan was a bizarre replacement, but our next character was a famous TV mom who was played by 2 different actresses, sparking a decades-long debate among fans. 6. Marilyn Monster on the Munsters.
Oh, I said he's my uncle, and he's 151 years old.
That's what I thought you said. Excuse me a minute, darling. I'll take this now. Thank you.
On the classic 60s sitcom The Munsters, the entire joke was that a family of classic monsters, Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, a werewolf, saw themselves as a perfectly normal all-American family. The twist was that the one normal-looking member of the family, their beautiful blonde niece, Marilyn, was considered the ugly duckling, the weird one. In the show's first season, Marilyn was played by actress Beverly Owen. She perfectly embodied the sweet, slightly sad nature of a girl who just didn't fit in with her ghoulish family. But just when it all seemed figured out, Owen found herself in a difficult personal situation. She was deeply in love with her boyfriend, who lived in New York, and the commute from the show's set in California was making her miserable. She was reportedly so unhappy that she would often break down in tears on set. After just 13 episodes, the producers agreed to release her from her contract. The role was immediately recast with actress Pat Priest, who looked remarkably similar to Owen. Priest stepped into the role seamlessly and played Marilyn for the remainder of the show's run. Because the show was in black and white and the actresses looked so much alike, many casual viewers never even noticed the change, leading to a Mandela Effect-style debate among fans for years. The 2 Marilyns created a fan debate, but our next character was recast in a beloved family sitcom, with the show making a hilarious meta-joke about the change. 7. Morgan Matthews on Boy Meets World.
Will you just tie the bow? Late for the market, Dad's gonna kill me.
I don't know how to tie a bow.
So why did you tell me you did?
'Cause I'm self-confident.
For the first 2 seasons of the beloved TGIF sitcom Boy Meets World, the role of the adorable, wisecracking youngest sibling, Morgan Matthews, was played by actress Lily Nixay. She was a cute and funny presence, known for her sassy one-liners and her sweet relationship with her older brothers, Corey and Eric. Then, at the beginning of season 3, Morgan was gone. She wasn't mentioned for several episodes, a classic case of a character being put on a shelf. When she finally reappeared later in the season, she looked different and older. The role had been recast with a new actress, Lindsay Ridgway. It all boils down to this one twist. The show decided to lean into the awkwardness of the recast with a brilliant, fourth-wall-breaking joke. When the new Morgan appears for the first time, she says, "That was the longest time out I've ever had." It was a perfect, funny nod to her long absence and her new face, and it instantly endeared her to the audience. The reason for the original actress's departure was never publicly confirmed, but it's a great example of a show handling a potentially jarring recast with humor and wit, turning a behind-the-scenes issue into a classic TV moment. Morgan's recast was a great inside joke, but our next character, on another 90s classic, was recast after the original actress made the surprising choice to leave the show for college. 8. Becky Connor on Roseanne.
Harris, give me the keys to your car.
I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't. I gave them to Aunt Jackie because I know you could take me.
Damn it, Jackie! Give me the key!
For the first 5 seasons of the groundbreaking sitcom Roseanne, Lacey Goranson was Becky Connor, the smart, strong-willed, and often sarcastic eldest daughter. She was a key part of one of the most successful and critically acclaimed shows on television, a young actress with a bright future ahead of her. And then something totally unexpected happened. Goranson decided to leave the show to attend Vassar College. This was a major decision for a young star on a hit series. Instead of writing the character out, the producers took a highly unusual and now legendary approach. They recast the role with a new actress, Sarah Chalky. Chalky played Becky for 2 seasons, doing a fine job in an impossible situation. But the deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because Goranson would later return to the show, sharing the role with Chalky. One week, Becky would be played by Lisi. The next, she'd be played by Sarah, a fact the show began to lampshade with hilarious, fourth-wall-breaking inside jokes. This created a real-life Chuck Cunningham syndrome in reverse, where a character was so essential they couldn't be let go, even when the original actor vanished and reappeared at will. The 2 Beckys became a legendary running gag, but our next character was recast in a show so strange, the recasting itself became a meta-joke about the character's own forgettability. 9. Ann Veal on Arrested Development. Arrested Development was a show famous for its running gags, and one of its most brilliant was the character of Ann Veal, George Michael Bluth's deeply religious and incredibly bland girlfriend. The central joke surrounding Ann was that the Bluth family, particularly Michael, could never remember who she was. He would constantly refer to her with dismissive names like her or Egg. To heighten this joke, the producers made a brilliant and subtle casting decision. In her first appearance, Ann was played by actress Alessandra Torresani. In all of her subsequent appearances, she was played by Mae Whitman. The wild part is, the change was never acknowledged. The show simply swapped the actresses, and the new Ann looked completely different from the original. This silent recasting was a meta-commentary on the character's own forgettability. The fact that she could be played by a completely different person and Michael still wouldn't notice was the ultimate punchline. It was a genius move, a rare case of a recast being used not out of necessity, but as a brilliant, character-defining joke. Ann Veal's recasting was a meta-joke, but our next character was a major player in a classic 70s sitcom whose actor swap created a strange rift in the show's family dynamic. 10. Lionel Jefferson on The Jeffersons.
Are you sure you're okay?
Mom, I'm okay.
Oh, thank God, that's all that matters.
I'm glad you feel that way. I just got kicked out of school.
As the son of George and Louise Jefferson, Lionel was a key character in the All in the Family universe and its hugely successful spin-off, The Jeffersons. In the early seasons of both shows, Lionel was played by actor Mike Evans. He had great chemistry with the cast and perfectly embodied the role of the smart, level-headed son who was often exasperated by his father's loud-mouthed antics. But here's where it all takes a sharp turn. Evans decided to leave the show to focus on his work as a writer and creator of another sitcom, Good Times. The role of Lionel was recast with actor Damon Evans, no relation. Damon Evans played the part for several seasons, but his portrayal was different, and some fans felt he never quite captured the same chemistry with the rest of the cast. Then, in an even stranger twist after Good Times ended, Mike Evans returned to the role of Lionel for the show's later seasons. This double recasting was a bizarre situation that left some viewers with a case of casting whiplash. Lionel Jefferson was recast twice, but our next character was the normal one in A Family of Monsters and was played by 2 different actresses. 11. Chris Partridge on The Partridge Family.
I hear about you not wanting to play with the group anymore.
It's sissy stuff.
But you've always enjoyed playing the drums.
I was just a kid then.
On the beloved 70s musical sitcom The Partridge Family, the family band was made up of Shirley Jones and her 5 musical children. The role of the youngest son, the cute little drummer Chris Partridge, was originally played by child actor Jeremy Gelbwax. He was part of the show's successful first season, appearing in all the musical numbers and family scenes. But when the show returned for its second season, Chris looked completely different. He was now being played by actor Brian Forster. What people miss is this key detail. The swap happened with no explanation. One season it was Gelbwax, the next it was Forster, and the show just carried on as if nothing had changed. The behind-the-scenes story is that Gelbwax's family moved out of state, making it impossible for him to continue on the show. Forster stepped into the role and played Chris for the remainder of the series. Because both were young child actors with similar looks, many casual viewers never even noticed the change, making it one of the quietest but most definitive recasts of the era. The two Chris Partridges were a quiet swap, but our next character was recast on a modern sitcom after the original actress got a bigger job. 12. Mandy Milovich on Shameless.
You see that? They're digging your grave. And you want to be gone before they get down to 6 feet.
On the long-running Showtime series, Shameless, the character of Mandy Milovich, the tough, troubled, and loyal friend of the Gallagher family, was a fan favorite. In the show's first season, the role was played by actress Jane Levy. She was brilliant, perfectly capturing Mandy's mix of street-smart toughness and hidden vulnerability. She had incredible chemistry with Jeremy Allen White's character, Lip, and their relationship was a key part of the early seasons. But at the end of season 1, Levy was offered the lead role on her own sitcom, Suburgatory, and then came the part nobody expected. Instead of writing Mandy out, the producers decided to recast the role with actress Emma Greenwell. Greenwell did a fantastic job, making the character her own for the next several seasons. But the change was still jarring for fans of the show's early days. It's a modern example of a necessary recast, a situation where an actor's own success forces a show to make a difficult choice. Mandy Milovich was recast due to an actor's success, but our next character was recast after the original actress tragically passed away. 13. Glattis Kravitz on Bewitched.
No, I will not. It is time that people found out about this house. Oh, weird things go on in here. They have powers. Supernatural powers.
On the classic 60s sitcom Bewitched, Glattis Kravitz was the ultimate nosy neighbor. She was constantly peering through her curtains, convinced that something strange was going on at the Stevens household next door, and she was always right. The role was originated by actress Alice Pierce, who was absolutely brilliant. Her frantic, hysterical performance earned her a posthumous Emmy Award. Tragically, Pierce was diagnosed with terminal cancer before the show even began, a fact she kept hidden from the producers. She passed away near the end of the show's second season. The producers were faced with the difficult task of replacing a beloved, award-winning character. They recast the role with veteran character actress Sandra Gould. It was supposed to be easy, until it wasn't. While Gould was a fine actress, her portrayal of Glattis was different. She was louder and more abrasive than Pierce's more neurotic and comically terrified version. The chemistry with her on-screen husband Abner was different, and many fans felt the magic was gone. It was a tragic and difficult situation, a recast born out of necessity that could never quite live up to the brilliant original. The two Glattis Kravitzes were a tale of tragedy. But our next characters were the parents on a 90s classic who were played by different actors in the pilot. 14. The Matthews parents on Boy Meets World.
Really? You teach me how to take out the garbage?
Yep.
What, am I an idiot?
William Russ and Betsy Randall are beloved as Alan and Amy Matthews, the warm, funny, and supportive parents of Corey, Eric, and Morgan on Boy Meets World. Their chemistry was perfect, and they became one of the most iconic sets of TV parents of the 90s. But in the unaired pilot episode of the series, the roles were played by two completely different actors. Veteran actor Matt McCoy originally played Alan, and a different actress played Amy. After the pilot was filmed, the producers decided the chemistry wasn't quite right, and made the crucial decision to recast both roles. Russ and Randall were brought in, the pilot was reshot, and the rest is television history. The real shocker was still to come. The original pilot has never been officially released, but clips have surfaced online showing a bizarre alternate universe version of the show. It's a fascinating glimpse into what might have been, and a powerful reminder of how important casting the right actors can be. The original Matthews parents are a lost piece of TV history. But our next character was the matriarch of a beloved sitcom family who was played by two very different actresses. 15. Claire Kyle on My Wife and Kids.
What? You gotta be one of the cutest girlfriends I got.
One of them.
But don't worry, though. You definitely in the top 10.
On the popular family sitcom My Wife and Kids, the role of the eldest daughter, Claire Kyle, was originated by actress Jazz Ray Cole. In the first season, she played the cute but slightly awkward preteen daughter, a perfect foil for her goofy dad, played by Damon Wayans. But when the show returned for its second season, Claire had undergone a dramatic transformation. She was now being played by actress Jennifer Freeman. And then everything flips upside down. The reason for the change was a classic behind-the-scenes drama. Ray Cole's mother was reportedly unhappy with a storyline in which Claire's friend gets pregnant, and she pulled her daughter from the show. The producers recast the role with Freeman, who had a completely different look and energy. The show never acknowledged the change, simply presenting the new Claire as if she had been there all along. It was a jarring swap that fans have debated for years, a definitive example of a real-life parental decision forcing a major change on a hit show. The Claire-Kyle swap was a result of parental concern, but our next character was the sister of a 70s icon who was recast after just a handful of episodes. 16. Lorie Foreman on That 70s Show.
She's got a big TV show, and she's married to Lee Majors, so Aquanet, very important.
As Eric Foreman's promiscuous and often manipulative older sister on That 70s Show, Lorie was a hilarious and memorable recurring character. For the first few seasons, the role was played by Lisa Robin Kelly, who was brilliant at capturing Lorie's mix of casual cruelty and surprising vulnerability. But Kelly's personal life was plagued by struggles with addiction, and after the third season, she left the show. Her character was written out, said to have gone to beauty school. When the character returned in season 6, the role was recast with actress Christina Moore. Moore did a fine job, but her portrayal was different, and she lacked the chaotic energy that Kelly had brought to the part. What people miss is this key detail. The recasting only lasted for a handful of episodes before the character was written out again, this time for good. It was a sad and messy situation, a story where real-life tragedy impacted a beloved show. Lisa Robin Kelly tragically passed away a few years later, making her story a cautionary tale about the pressures of Hollywood. Lorie Foreman's story is a tragic one, but our next character was recast with an actor who would become a comedy legend, completely transforming the role. 17. Darren Stevens on Bewitched.
I'm a man, and you're a man, and she's a woman. No, she isn't. She isn't a woman? No.
He is the OG, the godfather of all sitcom recasts. For 5 seasons on the beloved classic Bewitched, the role of Darren Stevens, the perpetually flustered mortal husband of the beautiful witch Samantha, was played by actor Dick York. His brilliant, high-strung physical comedy and his incredible chemistry with Elizabeth Montgomery made him a star. His exaggerated reactions to the chaos caused by Samantha's magical relatives were the comedic engine of the show. But the wild part is, behind the scenes, York was in constant, debilitating pain. He had suffered a severe back injury years earlier and had become addicted to painkillers. His health deteriorated to the point where, during the filming of one episode, he had a seizure on set and had to be rushed to the hospital. He resigned from the show immediately. The producers were faced with an impossible choice: end a hugely popular show or recast its male lead. They chose to recast. Actor Dick Sargent stepped into the role. Sargent was a fine actor, but his portrayal of Darren was calmer and more subdued. The frantic comedic energy that York had brought to the part was gone. The show continued for 3 more seasons, but many fans felt the magic had faded. The Darren Stevens recast became the gold standard for all future TV actor swaps, the one that every fan of classic television knows and debates to this day. The 2 Darrens became a TV legend, but our next characters were a set of parents who were recast after the pilot, saving the show before it even started. 18. Jerry and Helen Seinfeld on Seinfeld.
No, he just doesn't like me. doesn't like you? How could anyone not like you?
I know, it seems impossible.
Jerry Stiller and Liz Sheridan are comedy legends for their roles as Frank and Helen, George Costanza's parents. But what about Jerry's parents? For 9 seasons, Barney Martin and Liz Sheridan played Morty and Helen Seinfeld, Jerry's lovably meddlesome Florida parents. Their chemistry was perfect. But in the show's second-ever episode, The Stakeout, the role of Jerry's dad was played by a different actor, Phil Bruns. But just when it all seemed figured out, co-creator Larry David decided Bruns wasn't quite right for the part. He found the portrayal a little too low-key and wanted a character who could better stand up to his on-screen wife. The role was recast with Barney Martin, who made it his own. The original scenes with Bruns were never reshot for syndication, so he remains a ghost in the Seinfeld machine, a forgotten father who exists only in the show's earliest days. It's another example of the show's creators being ruthless in their pursuit of comedic perfection. Jerry's dad was recast for comedic perfection, but our next character was recast multiple times in a bizarre reboot of a horror classic. 19. Eddie Munster on the Munsters. Today,
what are you doing up in that tree? Come down here this instant.
I won't. I'm gonna stay up here till I croak. Because nobody loves me. Nobody cares.
rebooting a beloved classic is always a risky proposition, but the 80s reboot The Munsters Today made a series of baffling decisions, none more egregious than the recasting of the show's child werewolf, Eddie Munster. The original Eddie, played by Butch Patrick, was a beloved character. The new Eddie, played by actor Jason Marsden, was not. And then came the part nobody expected. Marsden was quickly replaced by actor Lee Montgomery. And then Montgomery was replaced by actor Hilary Van Dyke? Yes, you read that right. The role of Eddie Munster was played by 3 different actors over the course of the reboot's 3 seasons, with the final actor being a girl. The constant recasting became a running joke among the few people who were actually watching the show. Each new actor brought a different energy to the role, creating a jarringly inconsistent character. It was a clear sign of a show in creative chaos, a desperate attempt to find a version of the character that would click with audiences. It never did. The reboot was a forgettable mess that failed to capture any of the charm of the original, and the ever-changing face of Eddie Munster became a symbol of its failure. The 3 Eddies were a sign of chaos, but our final character is the man who gave the entire vanishing actor phenomenon its name, and who was himself recast before he disappeared. 20. Chuck Cunningham on Happy Days.
Is something bothering you, Richard?
No, Mom, I'm fine.
Looks to me like he's got girl problems.
What makes you think you're so smart, Chuck?
Certainly not his grades from last semester.
He is the man, the myth, the legend who gave the entire phenomenon its name. But what many people forget is that the character of Chuck Cunningham himself was recast. In the first season of Happy Days, the role of the mostly silent older brother was played by actor Gavin O'Herlihy. After a handful of episodes, O'Herlihy, fearing being typecast in a minor role, asked to be let go. The role was then recast with another actor, Randolph Roberts, for a couple more appearances. Roberts had even less to do than O'Herlihy, often just dribbling a basketball in the background. But right when it seemed like the end of the road for the character, that's when the real story started. The producers decided the character simply wasn't necessary, and after the second season, both the character and the actor were gone for good. The Cunninghams suddenly had only 2 children, and Chuck was never mentioned again. The fact that the character who defines the Chuck Cunningham syndrome was himself played by 2 different actors before vanishing is the ultimate meta twist in this strange television tale.